With all of the events and hearsay going on in the U.S. iGaming landscape, it's easy to get confused about what's really going on. Today, we'll be clearing up the confusion and giving you a real, honest overview about the current state of iGaming in the U.S. and what you can do to prepare for legalized online gambling when it happens, because it's only a matter of time. Professor Nelson Rose, a legal expert who knows the history about online gambling in the U.S., will be sharing the legal perspective of regulated iGaming and his predictions for what's to come. We'll also give you some concrete, sound advice for what you can do now to prepare for U.S. regulation when it does happen. U.S.-based iGaming veteran Warren Jolly will offer his 5 points on what affiliates can start doing to ready their businesses for legalized iGaming. If you have any questions about any of the content presented today, as always, we will be providing you an extended Q&A session for the last 20 minutes of the webinar. You're welcome to submit your questions throughout the presentation using the question panel in the GoToWebinar panel. Before we get started, I'd like to thank today's webinar sponsor, TwinSpire Affiliates. TwinSpires.com is the largest legal betting platform in the USA. The TwinSpires product offers U.S. players the unique ability to wager on horse racing legally year-round. With TwinSpires, you'll get the ability to partner with the most trusted name in U.S. horse racing. TwinSpires offers excellent online conversion tools and marketing materials, fantastic contests, and promotions and excellent payout structures and CPA deals. Sign up at TwinSpires now and get free wagering services with no subscription fees, a $100 sign-up bonus, and free enrollment in the best player rewards program in racing, the TwinSpires Club. Now I'd like to welcome and introduce our first guest speaker, Professor Nelson Rose. Professor Rose is full professor with tenure at Whittier Law School. He frequently speaks on legal issues related to online gambling, so be sure to keep your eyes and ears out for his next appearance. I'd also like to welcome our other guest speaker, and my boss, Warren Jolly. Warren has been a successful entrepreneur since high school. Founding his first business at the age of 17, Warren quickly established himself as a recognized expert in the field of affiliate marketing. Today, Warren has grown CAP and its parent company, Affiliate Media, Inc., into a fast-growing online publishing organization that's won widespread acclaim in the larger business world. Professor Rose and Warren, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the webinar.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me.
Of course.
Great to be here.
Without further ado, let's get everything started. I'll pass everything off to you, Professor Rose.
Thank you very much. And I want to start by thanking Warren Jolly and Casino Affiliate Programs for inviting me, and welcome. Since I'm on the West Coast, I'm going to say good morning to everybody. Also, you'll notice that my internet website is on the left there, gamblingandthelaw.com. I do have a mailing list. I do a monthly column called Gambling and the Law, and if anybody would like to be added to the mailing list, send me an email and just let me know. What I'm going to do is give the background on how we got here quickly and say to show where we're going, and then make some very specific predictions about what I see going on, where the states are going to legalize, what's going to happen, and also, of course, give lots of times for question and answer. First, to understand the background, we're in the third wave of legal gambling. This is the third time in American history that gambling has spread everywhere, and a fairly dramatic illustration of that wave are the state lotteries. So you can see that it started, we go back to 1962, and there were no state lotteries in this country whatsoever. Today, we're seeing, well, here's how it spread. Notice that there's a breakthrough like in Florida in the South, and then the other southern states see all that money going across the state line and say, hey, we want to jump in on it also. So state after state does this, and you have the same sort of path to legalization with, you could do it with tribal gaming, but of course you need to have a tribe. The point of it, this is where we are today. It took, though, 50 years to go from no state lotteries to now we have a state lottery in all but a half a dozen states. the speed of change on the internet is like dog years. It's not going to take 4 or 5 decades. We're going to see, starting this year, legalization of internet gambling that everybody recognizes as internet gambling in Nevada, and it'll be less than 10 years before most of the states will have internet gambling. And the reason it's happening, it's the same reason we're finding the spread of every other form of gambling. We've got this economic recession. Gambling is seen as a voluntary tax. It's an easy way to raise money without getting having to raise taxes or cut services. But the main thing is that the federal government has now made it easy to do this. So for the states to get into it. First, let's talk about the federal, because there's such interest in having something come out of Congress. The problem is nobody in Washington, D.C. cares about this issue. They don't care about it to legalize. They don't care about it to outlaw it, with a couple of exceptions. We've got Barney Frank, who we now know is going to leave. He's not running for re-election, but he was one of the few individuals who really wanted it to be legalized. On the other side, you had people like Senator John Kyle, who also is leaving, who was the exception, one of the few exceptions the other way. The interesting thing, though, is you've got Harry Reid, the majority leader of the United States Senate, who obviously cares a lot about gambling issues. He personally is against internet gambling, but he will do what the Nevada casinos want, and the Nevada casinos want internet gambling as long as they're the ones who get to run it, obviously. So if it was going to happen, it would have been when the Democrats had control of the House, they had control of the Senate, and they had the presidency. President Obama is not in favor of gambling, but he certainly would not veto a bill that came out of the Democratic Congress, but it didn't happen. And now the Republicans control the House. So assuming Obama's reelected, the Democrats regain control of the House, and we've got some individuals who care about this, there is a slim chance that the Congress might do something. They're certainly not going to do anything before that. However, I think even then, even if, let's say the Democrats even got 60 votes in the Senate so they could overcome any Republican filibuster, it still looks like it isn't going to happen. And the reason is that Department of Justice announcement from last Christmas. It activated the states. We've now got the National Council of State Legislators saying we don't need to have federal legislation. You've got NASPL, the North American Association of State and Provincial Lotteries, saying we don't need federal legislation. The states can do it. So what little chance there might have been if the Democrats triumph in November probably is gone. Even during the lame duck session, I don't see it happening. Let's talk about that that Christmas announcement, the gift from the Department of Justice. First, understand what the position of the DOJ was. They had said everything's illegal, and they were using the Wire Act as the weapon of intimidation. The states have to follow the federal law as well. But when you look at all of the federal statutes, you will realize they don't apply to legal gambling. All federal statutes are limited to illegal gambling, with only 2 exceptions: the federal anti-lottery laws and the Wire Act. Well, the states obviously figured out ways to get around the federal anti-lottery laws. They set up multi-state lotteries before the amendment to the federal anti-lottery law that specifically allows multi-state. And so what you're really left with was the Wire Act. Now, the position of the Department of Justice was fairly extreme. they said, first of all, the Wire Act applies to all gambling, so they would use it against poker as well as sports betting. And even if a state legalized, like Nevada had legalized internet casinos, the American Virgin Islands had legalized internet casinos, the Department of Justice sent them letters saying, if any of your licensees take bets from anywhere in the U.S. or even intrastate, it's illegal because the Wire Act covers a wire that just temporarily crosses into another state. On 2 days before Christmas, the Department of Justice at its highest levels officially changed its position. It backed off on both, which it really had to do because the courts were coming out against those positions, and said, all right, the Wire Act is limited to interstate sports wagering. What this means is, remember, there's no other federal law, so any state can legalize anything. Now, there's another statute, the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, that says, well, you can't have sports betting unless you already have it. So except for sports betting, any state can do anything intrastate. Turns out they can also do interstate or even international. Again, the Wire Act says not sports betting, and then the lottery statutes would make it a little difficult for international. But except for, with those few exceptions, the states can get into pooling across states' lines, across international boundaries. And New Jersey voted in sports betting in November. The bill was signed this January. So there's a lawsuit going on by Senator Ray Lesniak in New Jersey to declare PASPA unconstitutional. A similar bill is working its way through California. And if those are successful, then even sports betting is going to spread everywhere. What does this mean? Well, it does mean it's got to be legal under state law. I get questions from guys in Utah who want to set up sports books. Well, if you're in Utah, you can't even bet on a sports book, right? But it's got to be legal under state law, so who's going to act? State lotteries can act first. They've got the statutes. Illinois has already done it now. Illinois, there's a new statute to let them have poker, but there's at least 6 that already are on the internet, and they're going to do traditional games. The big question will be, are they going to do scratchers? Because you put a scratcher on a video screen and it's indistinguishable from a slot machine. This is where the action is at the moment, although I should have also thrown in Mississippi had a proposal. It includes the states that have states lotteries, proposals for legalizing, and I don't want to run out of time, so I can go into more detail on which states, but clearly Nevada is now has a statute, has a regulations, is going to be issuing its first licenses this summer, and they'll be doing internet poker before the end of the year. The bill for internet casinos will undoubtedly pass New Jersey this year and be signed by the governor. California is a little more, I think it'll happen because they're so desperate for money, but the politics of who's going to get the license is going to interfere with that. It may be next year. Once you find Iowa, it passed the House and didn't make it through the Senate. Once it starts, we're going to find that the other states are going to jump in very quickly. The politics of this are that there's so much legal gambling in this country that legalizing one more form like internet poker is just no big deal. But because there's so much illegal gambling in this country, the licenses, the power is with the local operators, and they've got the power to say, great, internet poker or internet gambling is great as long as we get to do it. Where the two coincide, where the money and the local operators are the same as in New Jersey, those are the ones, all the licenses will go to the Atlantic City casinos. If Connecticut legalizes, there'll be 2 licenses. It'll go to the 2 tribes that run land-based casinos, and they're the largest employers in the state. In California, however, somebody like Caesars Entertainment is not licensed, and the card clubs and racetracks want to keep Caesars out. The politicians, of course, are legalizing only to raise money, so they want to bring Caesars in, and the compromise has to be, all right, well, at least 3 licenses, maybe an unlimited number of licenses. The interesting thing that nobody else has looked at is what the Christmas decision meant for sports betting. Everybody thinks of Nevada. Well, I worked with the Delaware State Lottery, which legalized, is grandfathered in under the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, and has set up sports books. I've told the Delaware Lottery, you can now take sports bets on the internet. Yes, the people have to be physically present in Delaware, but unless New Jersey wins its lawsuit, it's the only legal sports betting east of the Mississippi. And unfortunately, there was a lawsuit by the NFL that I was not involved in, where they're limited to the form of gambling they had back in 1991, which was parlay bets. But still, they can do it on the internet, and they can start intrastate, and they can start getting set up for expansion. Turns out there's 10 states that have some form of sports betting that was grandfathered in, which shows you, by the way, why the PASPA statute is going to be declared unconstitutional. You can't have legal sports betting in these states, but not in any others. So they can all go on the internet right now as well. Where the action will be within the next 10 years, I tried to figure out, I started going state by state. We've got all the states where we know the action is, ones where we expect it to be, and it's really hard to figure out where there won't be. Obviously, Utah is never going to have gambling. I've done work down in Alabama, which has still got lots and lots of problems with bingo and such. So I said, all right, well, bingo, it's really hard to figure out any state that won't look at this. In Hawaii, for example, which has no gambling, had a bill to set up an internet-only state lottery. So everybody is looking at this. What this means for affiliates, remember, it's got to be legal under state law. The Department of Justice is still waging its war of intimidation, and this doesn't change, for example, the Black Friday announcements, because they claim those violated New York State misdemeanor anti-gambling laws. But the problem for the feds is they've just lost their major weapon of intimidation, the Wire Act. So now they've got to find a violation of state law to then try to bump it up to a federal crime. They're looking for easy cases. They're looking for sports betting, for cases where the people are physically in the U.S. They don't want to go to trial on, like, the internet poker because they might lose that. The little bit of a wild card here is the U.S. attorneys are very independent. The U.S. attorney in Maryland is somewhat of a kind of a rogue and does whatever he wants. So you can get some individual actions against even affiliates. But so far, the Washington, D.C. Department of Justice just doesn't want to mess around with a hard case that they might lose and get a headline in the courts that would say court rules say internet poker legal. The states, of course, can do whatever they want. You can have people like the governor of Kentucky seizing names, it's very hard. You've got to have a statute that really applies. To have a criminal action against an individual, you got to have that individual physically in the state. So they can make life rough, but they can't really do much unless it is the easy case. One of the things everybody knows about the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act, the interesting thing about that statute is that it actually created this, designed to be an anti-internet gambling enforcement statute. It actually ended up with the Department of Justice saying, hey, the Wire Act, it doesn't apply, we've got a conflict, intrastate's okay, intertribal is okay, fantasy sports is okay, skill betting is okay, free alternative means of entry is okay, and the regulations say that if you get a reasoned legal opinion from a gaming lawyer, somebody like me, that says, yes, this is legal, then the banks are supposed to issue credit cards, do the payment processing, and of course affiliates say, well, if it's good enough for banks, it's good enough for us. Investors go along with that. So if you're dealing with one of the legal forms of internet gambling, or something close to internet gambling, if you get this reasoned legal opinion, it opens the doors for you to then do payment processing and basically not get hassled by the federal or state governments. That is it. I hope I did this in time. I think I did this quickly enough, and I want to turn it back over to Warren Jolly.
Of course you did. Thank you.
Great.
Warren, off to you.
Warren? So,
yes,
Warren,
Professor Rose, thank you so much. Yes, again, Professor Rose, thank you very much for your perspective, and it's always great to have you on. So today I'm going to go ahead and talk about 5 things that U.S. affiliates or affiliates targeting the U.S. market can do to prepare for the upcoming legislation on a state level and hopefully eventually the federal level. The first thing I think that's important for all affiliates to start thinking about is start behaving and structure yourself like a blue chip organization. What I mean by that is when the states start giving licenses to affiliates, operators, anyone of that nature, they're really going to look for companies that are structured well, that have the right sort of setup in place. So how can you do this as an affiliate? First of all, make a decision. Do you want to still continue doing U.S. activities or not? Our recommendation, of course, is if you can operate your affiliate business without taking any U.S. activities at this time, that's going to go ahead and set you up the best for the opportunity to get a license as an affiliate. Prepare for due diligence. States are going to, and the gaming commissions are definitely going to look at your activities now and in the past to understand what type of activities are you going to be participating in the future. Are you going to stay legal? Are you going to work within the confines they structure? Again, these gaming commissions and states, they have very tight lines that they operate off of. Ensure all your activity promoting outside the U.S. is currently clean. And what I mean by that is, if you are doing anything outside the U.S. today, look at the countries you're targeting. Are you working in markets such as France and the UK that do have regulations in place, or are there other markets such as Turkey or Israel or some markets which are considered a bit more sort of gray area still? In terms of corporate structure and your documentation, again, if you're just an individual operating an affiliate site, it might be challenging to get licenses in any level because states and gaming commissions are going to look at, are you a real business? Is there a real substance behind what you're doing? And again, to set up a corporation in the U.S., it's not expensive, and it allows you to really have that structure, which is going to make it accommodating for these types of licensing. And finally, financials for audits. So, of course, in any licensing structure, these states are going to want to know, what type of revenues and what type of activities have you been doing, and that's going to really come from your financials. So you want to make sure that you have good, solid financials that are prepared for audits. So what will the U.S. states likely be looking for? I think without a doubt they're going to want to know who are the directors and owners of your company. Was anyone involved in any rogue operation per se on anything to do with the U.S. side? So they're going to want to know who's behind the business and who's actually participating in the affiliate marketing activities. What were your prior dealings in promoting online? Again, who are you promoting? Who are you working with? And what's been leading up to your desire to get that license for your affiliate marketing activities? What are going to be your marketing methods and your plans to drive business? So again, are you promoting strictly online? Are you going to be doing any offline activities? All of these things are going to be taken into account when you are looking to get a license as an affiliate. Again, keep in mind, the DOJ, as Professor Rosa said, they're looking for the easier targets, and potentially financial penalties will be created as a cause of that. So you want to be cautious of the revenue you have been taking on and realize that there could be some potential settlements that would be required for you to even be considered for a license if that's the route that you choose to go. Now, onto the subject of licensing and what you'll need to do to be in the running to get one. Anyone who wants to be a player in this new landscape will need to get a license. Let's use the state of Nevada as an example. In December of 2011, so last year, the Nevada Gaming Commission adopted regulations permitting intrastate non-house banked poker. Under these regulations, 3 types of licenses are going to be associated with interactive gaming in Nevada. First, licenses for operators. So, of course, the land-based groups that are in Vegas and potentially outside of Vegas that are going to be looking to operate in that state. The second is for manufacturers of interactive gaming software. So you have companies like IGT and WMS, and then you have potentially groups like Playtech and Microgaming and others that are going to be keen on servicing the online gaming market in the U.S. And then the last is going to be for service providers that are essentially, could be affiliate marketing companies to any other business that's going to operate a turnkey solution for online operators. Knowing that Nevada is going to issue these types of licenses, take note of what these major operators are doing to get their licenses. Again, you can assume that the gaming commissions in the states are going to make you do very similar things as what the operators are required to do to get these licenses. Again, maybe not the same stature or same nature, but it's going to be very, very close. So after all, the service provider licenses that affiliates will need are extensions of the major interactive gaming licenses. So that's a good way to base your thought process on how are you going to actually get these licenses. It's going to be best to join under the umbrella of a big brand's licenses and also other service providers that are going to be looking at providing these licenses to affiliates. So if you're working through a network or you're working through any potential partners right now, see if they're going to be getting a license in the US when it opens up. That could save you the cost and the headache of trying to go out and get these licenses yourselves. So in order to get a service provider license in Nevada, what will you need to be prepared to do to demonstrate to the Nevada Gaming Commission? Service provider applicants must prove their ability to maintain controls on player registration, prevent underage play, and establish player locations. How can you do that? As an affiliate, of course, you can restrict the traffic that comes to your site, not based on, of course, age, but on location, definitely. So you want to make sure you deploy things like geo-targeting and other things that can really prevent underage play and make you seem like a responsible partner promoting these operators. That's very, very important. The Gaming Commission will also address topics such as record keeping, dispute resolution, fees, taxation, what information must be presented on their website, and problem gambling notifications in regards to operations after getting a license. Our recommendation is have all this information prepared and ready to go before you apply for a license, because you'll definitely need to address these things with the Nevada Gaming Commission at that point, or any other gaming commission for that matter. This one might seem like common sense, but nonetheless, it's very, very important. So you want to disassociate yourself with the DOJ's hit list. If you're working with a program that is, or that's been on the hit list of the DOJ, or that's been potentially shut down, or it has been, in their target, you want to try to disassociate yourself with those programs and just try to keep yourself as clean as possible. Don't give the states or the gaming commissions any reason to deny a license for you, and keep your relationships as clean as possible. So get prepared to market. If you're interested in the U.S. market, and I know most affiliates are, you have to get ready to, you have to get your marketing plan in line today. So you want to be able to, think about the U.S. market, think about where your customers are going to be, understand that all the major media companies, if it's the online players like Facebook and Google, down to the TV stations and even offline advertising opportunities, they're all going to be opening up once the states start to legalize online gambling. So you want to start to develop a marketing plan in advance of that, so that you're not scrambling or fighting for inventory once the states do start to open up. So what can you do to start marketing now and getting prepared? First of all, email marketing is a very, very powerful tool. Get your email strategy together. Many affiliates in the iGaming space ignore the power of email marketing, but you've got to start implementing it now into your long-term strategy. It's the most direct way of reaching your database, and it's invaluable for building loyalty, trust, and brand awareness. So you want to take your U.S. traffic that's coming to your sites today and start encouraging them to join your email list. Let them know that you're going to be promoting legal offers to them, and start building that list. So once the states do start to open up, you're ready to start marketing that email database. It's the best way to segment and, again, target your audience. Of course, there's legal ways to promote online gambling today, such as horse racing. So, of course, TwinSpires, our sponsor for this webinar, is a great option. There's also TVG, who was acquired by Betfair, also legal. This will give you familiarity into how to work with legal U.S.-based operators and what American bettors are really into at the moment. So again, these are programs you can promote right now. You don't need to wait for any legislation to start doing that. Get your creatives ready to go for the U.S. market. So again, start thinking about where you're going to be advertising, how those creatives are going to look like, how are you going to be targeting American gamblers, and get these things in play so you can be ready and start marketing as soon as possible. Be wary of responsible promotions. And what I mean by that is, again, thinking like a blue chip organization and really ensuring that you're taking good care of your customers, because at the end of the day, as an affiliate, these are still your customers. You need to make sure that you're promoting the right promotions to them that are not going to be, again, you don't want to mislead your customers. There's been a lot of actions that have been taken, even in legal industries, by the FTC in the United States, when you're misleading customers online and you're pitching one thing to them, but they're actually getting something different. So make sure your promotions are accurate and you're delivering exactly what you're intending on delivering or promising to your customers. You want to make sure that you stay away from any mispromises there. So geo-target your traffic. Chances are you're still going to have traffic from outside the U.S. You want to be smart about that. There's solutions out there on the hosting level, also banner solutions, and they'll geo-target your traffic based on IP address. Where this is going to be critical, of course, is for the states. If there's only a few states that are going to be initially licensing or allowing online gaming, you want to make sure that when a visitor comes to your site from those specific states, that of course you're able to serve them up an advert for any of the licensed operators in that state. You can also block out other states. If there's no licensing or no operators there, you can completely block that out and not show any online gambling ads to those customers. Get to know the tribes. Again, the Native American tribes, there's a good chance they're going to have affiliate programs. When I was at IGNA last year in Vegas, Professor Rose was there as well, I believe. A lot of tribes were there. They're very, very interested in online gambling, and we know they're also aware of the importance of having an affiliate program. So understanding who these tribes are and how they're going to be planning on market is going to be to your advantage. Again, gaming affiliates have to be ready to market. You have to be prepared. You have to understand these things, understand the licensing, and just be ready to go as soon as possible, because things can again happen sooner rather than later. So SEO will, of course, be a major marketing strategy, but don't rely on it as your sole source of traffic. A lot of affiliates today in the iGaming space are heavily SEO focused. They're not thinking about other marketing methods. And again, I'm only referring here to U.S.-based affiliates or affiliates that are targeting U.S. traffic today. And the reason for that is there's just not. You can't advertise with Google. You can't advertise with Facebook. You can't do things outside of that. But again, preparing for legislation to happen, you need to start expanding beyond SEO. You need to start thinking about other ways to drive traffic and where opportunities are going to be to buy paid media. A lot of affiliates outside the U.S. are doing this with great success, and U.S. affiliates or affiliates intending on targeting the U.S. need to be prepared for that. Again, don't discount paid media and traditional media. This is going to be a huge driver of customers once legislation does happen. So again, think about building relationships with TV stations, with all the paid media opportunities out there. Again, online media buying is going to be wide open. So buying banner ads, getting on display exchanges, and doing paid marketing is going to be a core strategy to drive customers. We all know Facebook is going public tomorrow. Get familiar with the ins and outs of Facebook and how to drive traffic. I mean, this is a $100 billion company. You have 900 million users on here. A lot of those are US based. And of course, we all know that Zynga, which is now also a public company, their main game on Facebook was the Texas Hold'em poker game. So there's an audience there for you as an affiliate, and you can utilize Facebook to get really targeted with the traffic that you're looking to acquire. It's probably the best platform out there. So really understand how to do paid media on Facebook, and from a geo-targeting perspective, again, it's going to be one of the best out there. And lastly, of course, PPC will become available again. So Google AdWords, again, a lot of affiliates and operators outside of the U.S. market, and markets such as the U.K. are spending a lot of money and seeing good success on Google AdWords. It's a way to scale your business up. Again, in the U.S. on the state level, it's going to be opened up. That's the thought. So you want to make sure that your understanding of driving paid traffic through Google and through other PPC search engines is up to speed, because before the law was passed in 2006, I know a lot of affiliates were working with Google. Things have changed a lot. Their systems have changed. It's a lot more competitive. It's a lot more in-depth. So you want to make sure you're familiar with that. Changes in commission models. A lot of affiliates have questions about this. What's going to happen when legislation does happen? What can I expect my commissions to be? Are they going to go up? Are they going to go down? Is rev share still going to be around? And again, no one really knows, but the one thing that we do know is there will be changes in commission models. We can't expect land-based casinos, such as the guys in Vegas or Atlantic City, to continue to pay higher than, or the commission rates that we're currently seeing. So the expectation that commissions will be lowered is probably a valid one, and rev shares might even be gone entirely. That's something that's been discussed, and that I know that's been tossed around. So it's possible that only CPLs and CPAs could exist, and what that means is casinos would pay for a registrant, or they would pay for a depositor, and even then, the CPAs that we're used to or were used to in the U.S. market might drop significantly. Again, no one really knows, and only time will tell. But you need to be prepared for changes in commission models, and with the expectation that rates will go down. So how do you deal with lower commissions? Well, you won't be able to negotiate with the big boys like Wynn and MGM and others that are going to be going online the same way that you can today. And the reason for that is they understand their position. These are Fortune 500 multinational companies that have huge brands, and they understand when legislation does happen that they have a database of millions of customers that are active gamblers. They're going to have customers coming to them, and they're not going to need, per se, affiliates the same way that current operators will. However, just because you can't negotiate with them and that rates are going to go down doesn't mean that there's not a huge opportunity there. You need to cast a wider net and get more customers. And again, how do you do that? When the market opens up in the U.S., there's going to be so much more potential in market A, and B, the number of customers out there are going to be drastically increased because it's going to be legal. A lot of Americans don't bet online because they feel it's unsafe. They don't trust it. Even though there's still operators out there that offer the product, it's just not something they're willing to do or risk their money with. If your costs are outweighing your revenue because of lower commissions, be prepared to cut your costs. Again, it's running a business as an affiliate. You want to make sure that you're savvy about how you're managing things and your expectations. And again, no one's going to know what that balance is going to be once the market does open up. But you want to be prepared to structure your business like any other company and make sure that you keep your costs in line. So these are the 5 major points for preparing yourself for U.S. regulation. I hope this was helpful. Thanks everyone for your time. I'll give it back to Michaela.
Thanks, Warren. That was great. We have a lot of questions coming in for Professor Rose and Warren, so we'll kick that off now. And the first question is for Professor Rose. What are the biggest mistakes that you're constantly seeing from affiliates from a legal perspective that they need to fix right away?
Well, I think that Warren did a good job of laying out. You got to think like a regulated industry. The big question is who's going to get the licenses. And I think it's pretty clear if you've ever been involved with sports betting, unless you have a complete restructuring and change of personnel, you're not going to get a license in any of the states. If you look at who the big operators, MGM and Caesars, are buying up and joint venturing with, it's a good indication of what you need to do to set yourself up to be legal. So I guess like I guess it was IGT bought Playteca, which is the internet poker operator in Sweden, and that has never taken bets from the United States. No name identification whatsoever, but they were buying the expertise. So the same thing happens with affiliates. Now, the interesting question is whether that's going to get loosened. In fact, Nevada did approve Caesars going into a joint venture with 888. 888 used to take poker bets from Nevada, which the Nevada regulator said was 100% illegal, but in fact, they approved it. I asked the Nevada regulators about this, and they say, well, it's not like it was a license. It's only so they could do joint ventures in other countries. Well, you know, that still is a major, major change that if you – here's a company that supposedly was violating the laws, but it was poker, it wasn't sports betting, and they've been very clean since then. So Caesars, so the regulator said it's okay for them to do business with Nevada's biggest operator. It may be you may end up with a general amnesty. This is what France did, and said, all right, it's just too much money and too much expertise. We're going to let everybody in. But on the other hand, you may end up with the powerful local operators saying, let's make sure it's in the statute or the regulations that only we're the ones that get to do this. So anybody who ever took bets from the U.S. can't do it. Again, Nevada's probably an indication of what will happen if a company was doing poker and it had pulled out of the U.S. It probably will be able to get a license and to be doing business. I noticed BWin Party has just announced that they're doing a joint venture with one of the biggest tribes in California, with the expectation that California is going to legalize. The tribe will be able to get one of the licenses, and party poker will be back in the U.S. in California.
Great, thank you for answering that. I have another question for you from Grand T. Will we need a license for each individual state that we want to sell in or market to?
Yes, I think so. The reason that Harrah's, which is now Caesars Entertainment, is pushing Harry Reid, who's still the majority leader of the U.S. Senate, to get through federal legislation is they don't want to compete in 50 states against 50 powerful local operators for internet gambling licenses. But even if Congress does act, which I don't expect it will, they'll have to allow states to opt in or opt out. Congress would never impose the same gambling policy on on Utah and Nevada. On the other hand, I don't think Congress is going to act, which means it's state by state. Literally, you've got to be there and know what the states are doing. And this is the reason that, in fact, the big operators have set up lobbying in Sacramento for when California does legalize. They'll know what they'll help the bill look like something that they want.
Got it. Okay, makes sense. Next question is for Warren. Warren, what are you forecasting rev shares to drop to?
It's a great question. I wish we had a crystal ball to answer that question. But from what I've heard, again, some conversations with land-based groups and what some others that have been in the industry as long as I have, if not longer, we're hearing anywhere between 5 to 15%. And also, the other thought is that those rev shares would not be lifetime; they would be capped at a certain time frame. Again, nobody really knows, but that is what the current rumblings are indicating.
Okay, thanks. Next question is for Professor Rose. Some observers believe, one second, I'm sorry. Some observers believe Congress might try to preempt states from moving forward without a federal regulatory regime. How do you see that battle playing out?
I think there's no chance that Congress is going to act. Look, the Republicans took over the House of Representatives in January of last year. Since then, literally no bill has passed both houses of Congress that would create new substantive laws of any kind whatsoever, with the sole exception being they changed some patent laws. All Congress has been able to get through, both houses have been naming post offices and courthouses, reestablishing, continuing the FAA, which seemed like a pretty good idea since we want to make sure that airports continue to get built. And obviously there's a lot of votes on money. But the Republicans were rewarded for becoming the party of no, and the Democrats still have control of the Senate, so literally no substantive law is passing Congress, and it won't pass here either. To overturn the UIGEA, the social conservatives in the Republican Party would then say, oh no, this is allowing gambling to enter into the home. To expand the rights of to expand the UIGEA would be to be stepping on states' rights and not allowing, for example, state lotteries to go into this business. So Congress is not going to act. It certainly won't act before the election. I don't even see it acting now that the states are getting into this. I don't see it acting after the election. And understand, gambling has always been a state issue. And the states have done very well by saying Utah has its own policy, Nevada has its own policy. When they want to set up multi-state lotteries, they do that without the federal government being involved whatsoever. They don't need Congress. It would make life easier. We have an Interstate Horse Racing Act, which was amended in December 2000 to expressly allow states the rights to decide for themselves whether their residents can do remote wagering on horse racing, and it made it much easier for interstate betting, both by phone and computer, on horse racing. But we don't. It would be great if we had an interstate Internet Poker Act, but I don't see Congress doing anything in this area either way.
Okay, thank you for answering that so thoroughly. What about non-gambling internet sites like contest sites? Are those going to be affected by this changing environment?
Well, I think that it already has been. This has been the wonderful irony of the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act, which was rammed through by Bill Frist, the majority leader of the Senate, when the Republicans controlled both houses, and the presidency was supposed to be and designed to help him become president, which of course he got nowhere because he's just a failed politician. But the idea was that this was going to be a great fight against internet gambling, and it scared all the publicly traded entities out of the American market. But because it was done so fast, it wasn't even proofread, it's got all these loopholes in it for all these other forms of gambling or close to gambling, like skill contests. I've been issuing these reasoned legal opinions for skill operators from around the world, saying, yeah, you can in fact have players from the United States as long as you limit it to states where it's legal, which is virtually every state.
Okay, great. This question is for Warren. And Warren, I'm not sure what kind of tools this person means, so we'll just be general here. Warren, what kinds of tools will be best for affiliates to use?
I would need a bit of clarification on that, but I'm assuming if it's related to the topics I was discussing earlier, again, in terms of you'll need an email service provider. So again, a lot of affiliates are not currently doing any email marketing. So you'll want to make sure that you look for an ESP for short that is okay servicing the gambling market, and thought there is today they potentially would not be, but when legislation does happen, all the major guys will, of course, be on board. But if you're looking to build an email list today, the easiest way to start doing that is you can utilize a solution like PHP lists, or there's a lot of in-house solutions to start building your lists. Again, I think that's a really important activity. In terms of geo-targeting, there's solutions such as OpenX and others that are ad-serving solutions that will allow you to start getting familiar with IP-based geo-targeting, so that when state legislation does happen, you can start implementing that.
Okay, great. Warren, you mentioned casting a wider net to get more customers. What are some tips for diversifying my affiliate business now? Can I still promote binary options and Forex?
It's a good question. I mean, binary options and Forex is a little more cut and dry, but binary, I'm just using that industry as an example, it's also a gray area industry, if you will. There's no law passed, such as the UIGEA, that specifically targets that industry. I personally don't think that the states will be evaluating, or the gaming commissions rather, will be evaluating whether or not you've been in industries such as Forex or binary options. I could be mistaken there. Again, Professor Rose would be more qualified to answer that question. But I think when it comes to casting a wider net, you want to be thinking about how you're marketing and your potential audience out there. Today, it's in the U.S. market, it's all about, again, the affiliates who choose to be operating in the U.S. are doing a lot of SEO, a lot of specific targeting for customers that are looking to bet. You want to be able to do the same type of marketing that the Vegas groups are doing, for example. That's what I mean by casting a wider net. And I'm not talking about online, I'm talking about offline. Again, what do the land-based casinos currently do to attract customers to come back? It is a lot of email, it is a lot of paid media. They're getting, they're going after opportunities where it's a bit more reactive in terms of customers, where there's just an opportunity to really target someone who may not be thinking about it, but it has an interest.
Okay, great. Thank you, Warren. Another question. This is a two-part question for Professor Rose, and it's from Mark from oddsfutures.com. Part 1, skill games based on sportsbook, e.g. Facebook-style credits. Is this seen as consideration for regulation? And Part 2. Well, let's go with Part 1 first of this question.
You're asking about anything connected with sports betting is going to be suspect. The Wire Act language is that it is against the law to send bets or information assisting in the placement of bets across state or national boundaries. So you can do things that look like sports betting. I've got a client who is doing a handicapping contest, and we work quite a bit to make sure there's no sports betting or even looks like sports betting. Look, I've worked with the FBI on this too. There's 3 guys who get up every morning and go into their offices in Washington, D.C. and say, okay, what is there today? What's new? And if it looks like sports betting, they're going to pay attention to it. And by the way, you know these guys because they log on with their real email addresses. They use .gov in their email address because they're allowed to. And so, and then if it turns out they look it over and they say, oh, it's just a handicapping contest and it's either free or it's clearly a game of skill, then after they'll go on to the next site. You get looked at for a few weeks. By the way, if you're a successful site, 6 months later you're going to see a whole bunch more of .govs signing up, but those are guys in the Pentagon who should be doing something else, and instead are busy gambling or playing games while they've got time on their hands while they're sitting in front of computers with the military.
Great, thank you. There was a part 2 to that question.
Yes.
What is the federal law for sports? For horse racing, we know is exempt anyway. Does federal law or state gambling have any application for skill games based on sports, or is it okay since PASPA is in doubt?
Well, there's 2 separate questions there. There's the horse racing, and then there's the skill game. Horse racing, Congress expressly amended the Interstate Horse Racing Act to allow interstate horse racing. The Department of Justice's position still, even after the Christmas announcement, is no, cross-border wagering on horse races is illegal. That's nonsense, because if it was true, then the racing commissions in states like Oregon would be going to prison. So, and in fact, we know there's international horse racing. The Breeders' Cup actually had a pari-mutuel pool with Canada and the U.S. So, and I've actually seen horse racing on Hong Kong races from the Hollywood Park Card Club in California. That clearly is supposed to be illegal. So it's tolerated. We can get more into it, but the bottom line is, if it's legal, you can do horse racing, certainly intrastate. Everybody agrees about that. And I think it's also clear the Department of Justice is wrong, and you can do interstate. I've worked with overseas operators who are facilitating bets from one part of the U.S. to the other and giving them legal opinion. That is legal. The skill game question is completely separate. Skill, if it is truly a game of skill, it does not fall under any federal statute now, and it would be legal in almost all the states. There are states like Arizona which put restrictions on it so that the prizes are supposed to be small. It's up to the operator to decide, are you going to block those states, or are you going to say, well, it's up to the only if we find out that they're from Arizona, or we just wait until we get contacted by the Attorney General of Arizona, and maybe we never will, if you're doing skill games.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think we have time for one more question here. What do you suggest gambling-based parked domain URL names point to in order to generate revenue?
I missed
a question better directed for Warren or
for Warren.
Professors.
Well, it's a good question. If it's a park domain and it's targeting U.S. The U.S. market, again, you can tell by placing a geotag on there. You have to make the decision whether or not you want to promote to a U.S. based operation today. Our recommendation would be, if it is U.S. traffic, promote something legal such as Twin Spires or TVG. Again, if it's non-U.S. traffic, there's affiliate programs that actually offer domain parking tools. One of them that just off the top of my head is, for example, Rewards Affiliates, large microgaming operator that does not accept U.S. customers. They would be an option. They have a tool where you can monetize your park domain traffic without having to build a website. So you just have to make the decision. Do you want to promote the U.S. or not at this time? And if you do you want to do it legally or illegally? I suppose. And then if it's non-U.S., again, I think there's other programs as well that offer that same solution. That would be my recommendation.
Great, thank you, Warren. I think we have time to squeeze one more in. I've had so many great questions come in here. This one is for Professor Rose. Do you think the legalization of online gambling is going to have a blockbuster effect on land-based casinos?
I think land-based casinos are changing anyway. We will not see the next casino won't look like the ones that now exist in Nevada. I asked a 22-year-old, since you don't carry money, they don't carry money anymore. If you're going to go to a casino to play a slot machine, what do you do? And the 22-year-old said, why would I go play a slot machine? It's stupid. If you're carrying around the very best games in the world in your pocket, you're not going to really want to go and sit in front of a box in a warehouse in Las Vegas. So I think we're going to see great changes anyway. But people do like to gather in groups, and what is probably going to happen is for some forms of gambling, like we know this happened with poker, the internet helps drive people to the brick and mortar casinos. But for horse racing, where maybe you're already going to just vote to look at a screen when you're making your bets, maybe horse racing is going to be much more hurt. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. The casino industry understands this, and they want to own internet gambling if they can. So, and of course, there's geographic differences. I'm leaving on Sunday to teach gaming law at the University of Macau, and there, the stupidest game in the world, Baccarat, played with paper playing cards, makes 5 times as much as all of Nevada. So if it's the only game in town, that's what you're going to play. If anybody, I've written about this already. I wrote a column called The Fourth Wave, which is where the change is happening. And if anybody wants a copy, it's on my website, gamblingandthelaw.com, and also send me an email. I can send you a copy and add you to the mailing list.
Great, thank you. Well, I think that was a great question to end on, and that concludes our webinar today. Thank you so much, Professor Rose and Warren, for being our guest speakers and for providing some really great, insightful information on how to prepare for the U.S. iGaming landscape when it becomes regulated. As always, the recorded version of this webinar will be on the CAP website within the next few days or within the next week. And thank you again for joining us today. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.